Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is basically a high stakes digital thriller. We're going to look at exactly how law enforcement tracks down cybercriminals who think, keyword, think they've found the perfect untraceable currency. You see, the digital landscape changed incredibly fast, and the criminal underworld, well, they found a completely new playground. One built not on cold hard cash or gold bullion, but literally on strings of code floating out there in the digital ether. So grab your detective hat because here is our tactical briefing for today. We've got 5 steps to cover to understand how investigators catch the bad guys. 1. The ghost in the ledger. 2. The rise of altcoins. 3. Digital forensics and wallet hunting. 4. The investigator's arsenal. And finally 5. Executing the crypto takedown. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the ghost in the ledger. Let's talk about tracking Bitcoin. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is to catch a crypto criminal, detectives first had to understand the actual phantom they were chasing. Invented by this super mysterious creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin isn't backed by a government. It's not backed by a bank. Instead, it's grounded in hard, finite mathematical data. Nakamoto kept Bitcoin's total existence at exactly 21 million coins, period. Back in 2018, there were about 16.8 million circulating, which left just over 4 million yet to be mined. So authorities aren't tracking endless, newly printed money. They are tracking a strictly capped mathematical set.
And this whole system operates on 5 core principles. First, it's a distributed database, meaning no central bank pulls the strings. Second, peer-to-peer transmission. Money moves directly, completely bypassing the middlemen. Third, it offers transparency, but with pseudonymity. Owners hide behind these long strings of 30-plus random characters. Fourth, the records are completely irreversible. No president, no CEO, no bank can undo a transaction. And finally, computational logic. These 5 points make Bitcoin an absolute masterpiece of computer science, for sure. But as you can probably imagine, it's a complete tracking nightmare for traditional cops. So let's walk through the exact anatomy of a digital handshake on this network. Step 1, a user initiates a payment using a highly secret private key. Step 2, that gets broadcast to a massive global network of computers, known as nodes. Step 3 is where it gets crazy. Special nodes called miners literally race to solve this brutal mathematical puzzle using the SHA-256 algorithm and random variables called nonces. Step 4, the winner's block gets permanently, immutably chained to the ledger. And Step 5, that winning miner gets rewarded with freshly minted Bitcoin. For criminals, this setup offered a tantalizing promise, right? Fast, secure, and entirely anonymous transactions. Or so they thought.
Which brings us to Section 2, the rise of altcoins, because the criminals had to adapt to the heat. As law enforcement actually started figuring Bitcoin out and turning up the heat, the criminal underworld didn't just give up. They migrated. They moved to a staggering 1,300 alternative cryptocurrencies. And we can basically break these variants down into 2 distinct categories based on what investigators were seeing on the virtual streets. On one side, you have the speedsters, coins like Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. These were built for lightning-fast transactions and massive volumes. But on the flip side, investigators faced the dark network. These are assets like Ripple, Dash, Zcash, and Monero, and they were engineered from the ground up for intense secrecy and ultimate cloaking. To really understand the extreme lengths developers went to for absolute digital secrecy, you just have to look at this term, ZK snarks. It sounds like sci-fi, but it's mind-bending, zero-knowledge proof math used by Zcash. Basically, it allows the network to encrypt the transaction details entirely. It mathematically verifies that a transaction happened without ever revealing who sent it, who received it, or even the amount. Pretty wild, right? And then Monero went even a step further. They use something called ring signatures to mix a suspect's digital signature with a bunch of dummy participants. As the investigative playbook puts it, tracking a Monero sender is literally like trying to identify a single raindrop in a hurricane. I mean, it is the ultimate cloaking power. All right, Section 3, digital forensics and wallet hunting. Let's look at the scientific playbook the good guys use to fight back. So, how do investigators actually bring order to this digital Wild West? Well, they deploy a super rigorous 4-step procedural playbook designed to freeze digital evidence in time, and more importantly, survive the harsh scrutiny of a courtroom. Step 1 is identification. They use the classic 5WH model, who, what, when, where, why, and how, just to triage if the case is even winnable. Step 2 is collection. This is where perfect digital clones of hard drives are taken and immediately stamped with a unique SHA-256 hash fingerprint. If a single digit changes later, that fingerprint breaks. Step 3 is examination, deploying advanced data mining algorithms. And finally, step 4 is reporting, because you have to translate mountains of raw, complex code into clean, visual flowcharts that a judge or a jury can actually understand.
And this brilliantly illustrates the two totally different directional strategies detectives use to actually ignite an investigation. Off-chain to on-chain happens when a suspect is caught red-handed in a traditional crime. Think corporate embezzlement. The cops seize their physical laptop and then use those real-world clues to unlock their blockchain activity. But on the flip side, on-chain to off-chain is the exact opposite. It starts out there on the blockchain. They track a cyber extortionist or a darknet market through the digital void, just waiting and hoping to force them into a real-world choke point where their identity is finally revealed.
I really want you to feel like you're peeking directly at a tactical dossier right now. When breach teams raid a suspect's digital life, this is the exact checklist they use across 4 fronts to secure physical evidence. For computer wallets, they are hunting for hidden .dot files. On mobile wallets, they're scanning screens for apps like Mycelium or Bread Wallet. For online exchanges, they dig through browser history, specifically targeting US exchanges because those mandate strict Know Your Customer ID checks. And for cold storage, they're physically tossing rooms, searching for USB drives or even just paper printouts that might contain those crucial 12 to 24-word recovery receipts. Moving right along to Section 4, the investigator's arsenal. This is where the advanced tracing tools come in. Let's move to and see how this builds, because eventually, manual tracking just hit a brick wall. Law enforcement needed a major technological leap. For years, their baseline tool was a simple Bitcoin Explorer, which is basically a free Google search engine for the ledger. Sure, it showed raw data, but it absolutely couldn't tell you who owned the wallet. Enter Chainalysis. As we can see here, while both let you view raw data, Chainalysis can actually identify real-world owners using entity tags. It can perform automated pathfinding with a graph UI, and it can even execute cross-chain tracking across multiple different assets. Total game changer. These are effectively 4 digital superpowers that allow modern software to peer right through all that noise. First up, entity clustering. This uses machine learning to bundle thousands of anonymous addresses together, instantly revealing if a wallet belongs to, say, a ransomware group or a sanctioned state. Second, defeating the peeling chain. Smart criminals will try to split their money into dozens of new wallets, but Chainalysis Reactor builds automated interactive flowcharts that track that money across thousands of splits with just one click. Third, demixing the tumblers. When criminals scramble their trails through mixers like CoinJoin, advanced statistical modeling just tracks the money right out the other side. And fourth, cross-chain analytics. This acts like an omniscient observer, seamlessly maintaining the trail even when a syndicate jumps from Bitcoin to an entirely different blockchain. And that brings us to our final act, Section 5, executing the crypto takedown. Seizure protocols. Because, look, all the advanced algorithmic tracking in the world ultimately leads to one high-stress, real-world climax, the physical raid. But when tactical teams actually move in, they face a terrifying reality. Crypto is completely fungible. Slapping handcuffs on a suspect and grabbing their physical laptop does not mean the digital money is safe. If an accomplice halfway across the world has a copy of those private keys, they can drain the entire balance in seconds. Poof. Gone. Because of this, police departments have to set up highly secure, agency-controlled wallets long before an operation ever goes live. When the team breaches the room, they have to execute strict protocols based on 3 potential scenarios. Here's scenario A. The device is unlocked and unencrypted. Time is the absolute enemy here. An officer requires lightning-fast reactions. They literally have to constantly move the mouse or tap the screen to prevent the device from auto-locking. Then they navigate straight to the Send tab, set the balance to max, and instantly transfer the funds to that agency-controlled wallet. Boom, the evidence is secured in transit. But what if they face scenario B, an encrypted wallet? The software remains heavily locked down. Here, investigators have to pivot hard to legal and psychological tactics. They press the suspect for the passcode. Now, if the suspect refuses, getting them to simply admit on a body cam recording that they actually know the encryption key is a massive legal victory. Why? Because that triggers a swift court order compelling them to unlock it. If they still refuse to play ball, that powered-on device is rushed straight to specialized IT forensics. And then we have scenario C, the third-party exchange. So the crucial point is, if the target's wealth is sitting in an online web wallet or a centralized exchange like Coinbase, the rules of engagement completely change. Investigators bypass the physical device entirely at this point. They revert to classic bank-style policing tactics. They serve legal warrants and subpoenas directly to the exchange operators to freeze those digital accounts dead in their tracks. Which really brings us to the ultimate realization of this explainer. The digital Wild West wasn't won by guns. It was won by algorithms, relentless forensic discipline, and this powerful motif right here. While a criminal can run across the blockchain, every single step they take is written in stone. Think about that. Criminals relied on a very powerful illusion of anonymity. They thought they were hiding in the dark, but they were actually leaving a permanent, inescapable footprint on a public ledger for anyone with the right tools to uncover. So, what do you think? As these tracking tools get even more incredibly advanced, is the era of the truly untraceable cybercriminal already over? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Let's keep exploring.